The video opens with a serene shot of a peaceful suburban neighborhood bathed in the soft light of an early morning. The houses are quiet, their lawns freshly trimmed, and the birds are just beginning to sing, signaling the start of a new day. Amidst this calm, the camera gently zooms in on a young girl walking down the sidewalk in front of her house. She has a shaved head, a clear reminder of the chemotherapy she is undergoing. Her face, though marked by the signs of her battle with illness, carries a quiet strength. Despite the challenges she faces, there's a calmness about her, a serenity in the way she holds herself. She walks slowly but confidently, each step a small victory. The camera lingers on her as she smiles, nodding to a neighbor across the street who waves at her. The warmth of the community is evident, yet there's an underlying sadness in the way the camera captures her, a subtle vulnerability in her smile. Her family, standing by in the background, watches her with a mix of concern and pride. They, too, are adjusting to the new normal, the difficult reality of cancer treatment. Together, they've formed a quiet but unwavering bond, facing each day as it comes. This opening moment is filled with the calm of the early morning, the neighborhood's routine, and the strength of a family quietly grappling with something far greater than they could have imagined. The moment feels like a brief pause before a storm, where hope and vulnerability exist side by side, and everything seems peaceful. Yet beneath the surface, something is about to change. As the sun climbs higher, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, the scene shifts to a quiet street where your daughter is walking, her head still shaved from her chemotherapy. She walks with a sense of calm, her footsteps echoing lightly on the pavement as she passes the neatly kept lawns and quiet houses. Just as she rounds the corner near your home, Karen, a well-known and overbearing member of the HOA, steps out of her house. The moment Karen sees your daughter, her gaze hardens and her lips press into a tight line. There's something about your daughter's shaved head that immediately triggers a disapproving glance from Karen. Karen crosses her arms, her stance one of superiority, and she takes a few steps toward your daughter with a look of judgment plastered across her face. The air seems to thicken with tension as Karen's eyes narrow, scanning your daughter from head to toe. "Excuse me," Karen calls out sharply, her voice piercing the quiet morning air. "Why on earth would you walk around like that?" She gestures toward your daughter's head. "It's not appropriate. You're scaring the neighbors with that look." Your daughter hesitates, her face falling slightly, but she maintains her composure. She opens her mouth to explain, but Karen cuts her off with a dismissive wave of her hand. "No need to explain. I know what I'm seeing, and I'm just saying it's not what we want around here." People are talking. Your daughter, trying to hold back the sting of Karen's words, offers a polite smile, but Karen's tone becomes sharper, more insistent, as if she believes she has the right to control how everyone in the neighborhood behaves. With every word Karen says, her overbearing nature becomes more apparent, her need to control and judge others without understanding the circumstances. The camera focuses on Karen's rigid stance and the way she looks down at your daughter as if she's a problem to be dealt with, setting the tone for the judgmental, controlling character that will only grow more confrontational as the story unfolds. The tension in the air is palpable, and the peaceful calm of the morning begins to slip away. As your daughter approaches the front yard, still reeling from the uncomfortable encounter with Karen earlier, she tries to shake off the uneasy feeling. She's almost to the front door when she hears the unmistakable click of Karen's heels on the pavement. The sound is sharp, almost deliberate, as Karen strides toward her with an air of authority. The moment Karen reaches your daughter, there's no greeting, no nicety, just a sharp, judgmental look that cuts through the air. "Honestly," Karen begins, her voice laced with condescension, "I just don't understand why you do that to yourself." Her eyes sweep over your daughter's shaved head like she's inspecting something foreign. "A shaved head like that? You must know it's just not acceptable, especially around here." Her words are harsh, cutting into the quiet of the neighborhood. Your daughter freezes, her breath catching in her throat. She wasn't prepared for this. The shock of Karen's unsolicited comment paralyzes her for a moment. The weight of Karen's disapproving gaze, coupled with the harshness of her words, is overwhelming. She can feel the sting of humiliation rising, the all too familiar sensation of being judged for something she can't control. It's as if Karen's words alone are enough to erase her strength, reducing her to an object of ridicule in the eyes of this woman who doesn't even know her story. Karen doesn't even wait for a response. She presses on, her tone sharp and dismissive. You really should think about what you're doing. People might start to talk. I mean, who in their right mind would go around like that in public? It's just unseemly. Your daughter's lips part as if she wants to explain, to tell Karen the truth, that her shaved head is a symbol of her battle with cancer, not a fashion statement or a personal choice made to offend. But Karen doesn't give her a chance to speak. The words spill out so quickly, without pause, without room for your daughter's response, that it feels like Karen is deliberately shutting her down. Not to mention, Karen continues, her voice dripping with disdain. It's not exactly helping the neighborhood look its best, is it? She looks over her shoulder, as if checking for the approval of the other neighbors, almost as if this conversation is a performance meant to prove her point. Your daughter stands there, her hands trembling slightly, fighting back the tears that threaten to rise. She can feel the weight of Karen's gaze, as if it's a judgment she has no right to escape. She wants to stand up for herself, but Karen's confidence is suffocating. The scene is a stark contrast, your daughter's quiet vulnerability against Karen's overpowering arrogance. It's the beginning of a power struggle where Karen holds all the cards in her mind, convinced that her opinion is the only one that matters. As Karen turns to walk away, your daughter stands frozen in place, the harsh words echoing in her mind, leaving her to grapple with the shame that Karen has so carelessly piled onto her. As your daughter stands on the front porch, the weight of Karen's words still lingering in the air, the situation begins to shift. Karen, sensing her control over the moment, steps closer, her body language becoming even more aggressive. The harshness in her eyes deepens as she crosses the distance between them, standing just a few feet from your daughter. It's as if she's daring her to speak, pushing for an explanation, as though she believes your daughter's shaved head is something she has the right to judge and fix. Well, Karen demands, her voice sharp and challenging. You've heard me. Now explain yourself. Why would you walk around like this? This is a family neighborhood, and you're making people uncomfortable. What are you trying to prove, huh? Her words drip with an entitlement that's impossible to ignore. Karen's face is now flushed with frustration, and her tone becomes more mocking with every syllable, as if she's trying to break your daughter down with her words alone. Your daughter, her heart racing, swallows hard. She feels the hot sting of embarrassment creeping up her neck, but she knows she has to hold her ground. She opens her mouth to speak, her voice shaking slightly, but she steadies herself. I shave my head because of my illness. I'm going through chemotherapy, and it's part of the treatment, she explains, trying her best to sound calm, even as her chest tightens with anxiety. But Karen isn't listening. Instead of offering the understanding your daughter needs, Karen's face twists into a smirk, and she shakes her head. Chemotherapy, huh? Is that your excuse? She scoffs, her words dripping with disdain. That's rich. So, because of your illness, we're all supposed to just ignore the fact that you're walking around like that, drawing attention to yourself. She gestures toward your daughter's head with a dismissive flick of her hand, as if it's a mere inconvenience that she's being forced to tolerate. Your daughter's stomach churns, and the pit of humiliation only grows deeper. She tries again, her voice now trembling. I don't want attention. I'm just trying to live my life the best I can. It's not a choice, Karen. It's something I have to do. Karen interrupts her again, her laugh harsh and mocking. Oh, I see, she says with false sympathy, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Poor thing. But life doesn't work like that, does it? We all have to live with the consequences of our actions. Maybe you should just, I don't know, wear a hat or something and stop making a scene. Your daughter's face flushes with embarrassment, but there's an underlying spark of anger now, a frustration that she can no longer hold in. She stands up straighter, meeting Karen's eyes with a mixture of defiance and hurt. You have no idea what I'm going through, Karen. And honestly, I don't need you to judge me, she says, her voice firmer now, though it still shakes with emotion. Karen, unfazed by your daughter's attempt to stand up for herself, steps even closer, her eyes narrowing. You're not in charge here, she sneers. You don't get to decide how people feel about you. Maybe you should think about the rest of us for change. The words hit like a slap. It's clear now that Karen isn't interested in understanding or offering any empathy. She's determined to impose her will on the situation, convinced that she has the right to dictate what's acceptable in her neighborhood. As Karen steps back, she crosses her arms and looks at your daughter with a final, condescending glance. Just think about it, she says, her voice cold and dismissive. And maybe next time, keep that head covered. Your daughter stands there, heart pounding, struggling to hold back the tears that threaten to spill over. The humiliation is overwhelming, but there's a fire within her now, something more powerful than the shame that Karen has tried to impose. Karen, still unaware of the pain she's caused, turns and walks away, her heels clicking louder with each step, leaving your daughter standing in the wake of her cruelty. As the last sound of Karen's footsteps fades, your daughter exhales shakily, her hands clenched into fists. The tension in the air is palpable, a mixture of anger, frustration, and hurt. This is no longer just about a shaved head. It's about something deeper, a need for respect, and the realization that Karen's cruelty will not go unanswered. As the confrontation continues, the air between your daughter and Karen thickens with tension. Karen stands in front of your daughter, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her posture stiff with indignation. The weight of her earlier remarks still hangs in the air, but now her eyes gleam with a new kind of resolve, one that seeks to escalate the situation to an entirely different level. Karen says, her voice colder now, a dangerous edge creeping into her tone. I've had enough of this. This isn't just about you and your little stunt anymore. She pauses, as if for dramatic effect, her eyes scanning the street, making sure the neighbors are within earshot. This is about the peace of the entire neighborhood, and you're disturbing it. Your daughter flinches at the harshness of Karen's words, the word disturbing cutting through her like a knife. She opens her mouth to protest, to explain that she's doing nothing more than walking through her own neighborhood. But Karen doesn't give her a chance. You may think this is some harmless act, Karen continues, her voice rising, but it's not. People are already talking, and it's starting to feel like a real problem. Your daughter feels a knot tighten in her stomach, her pulse quickening. She knows that Karen isn't just talking to her. She's talking to the neighbors, making sure they're listening, feeding them her narrative of the situation. And the worst part is, she's turning her own appearance into something wrong, something that must be fixed. I'll have you know, Karen says, her words now laced with authority, if you keep this up, I will have no choice but to call the police. You're disturbing the peace, and that's a crime. The threat hangs in the air like a heavy cloud. Your daughter's heart sinks. The idea that Karen, of all people, is wielding the power to involve the police in such a trivial matter feels deeply unjust. The sheer absurdity of the situation is suffocating. She opens her mouth to speak, but the words catch in her throat. Her breath comes in shallow bursts, each one carrying the weight of confusion and hurt. Karen's expression softens slightly, but there's no kindness behind it. Only a quiet satisfaction, like she's won some kind of moral high ground. I'm just doing what's best for everyone, she says, as though explaining a great act of benevolence. We can't have people walking around like that, making others uncomfortable. It's bad for the neighborhood's image. Your daughter's anxiety grows with every word Karen says, the feeling of helplessness settling deep within her. The idea that something so personal, something so out of her control, is being used against her feels like a cruel twist of fate. She feels small in this moment, exposed, like her illness has become a spectacle for Karen to manipulate. Karen pauses, waiting for response. The neighbors, still watching from their windows and porches, are silent, perhaps too unsure to intervene, or perhaps too afraid to speak up. The injustice of the situation looms large, and your daughter stands alone, trying to process the words that have just been thrown at her. Think about it. Karen adds, her voice taking on a final, almost smug tone. It's your choice. You don't want things to get out of hand. Trust me, the police will be here soon if you don't cover that head of yours and stop causing a scene. With that, Karen turns, her heels clicking against the pavement as she strides away, leaving your daughter in stunned silence, the weight of Karen's words pressing down on her. The air feels even heavier now. And as Karen walks off, your daughter remains frozen, struggling to understand how everything has escalated to this point. Inside her house, Karen stands by the window, her phone gripped tightly in her hand as she watches your daughter stand frozen on the front porch. The camera lingers on Karen's face, showing the cold, calculating expression as she dials the number for the police. Her movements are swift but deliberate. She knows exactly what she's doing. The moment the line clicks, she takes a breath and steels herself, preparing to present her version of events. Hello, yes. Karen begins, her voice loud and insistent, trying to sound as official as possible. I need to report a disturbance in the neighborhood. She pauses for a moment, as if collecting her thoughts. There's a young woman walking around with a shaved head. She's clearly causing a scene, and it's disturbing the peace. The absurdity of the situation is immediate. There's no mention of your daughter's illness, no recognition of the personal struggle she's facing. Instead, Karen spins the narrative to suit her agenda, emphasizing how your daughter's appearance is unsettling to the community. The tone of her voice is full of urgency, as if she's reporting a real emergency. Yes, she's walking around like this, attracting attention, making the neighborhood look bad. It's completely inappropriate. Karen's eyes flick back toward the window as she watches your daughter, a satisfied glint in her eyes. She's in control now in her mind. Her fingers tighten around the phone as she continues, adding to her exaggerated tale. I don't know what's going on, but she's been walking up and down the street, disturbing people. It's not right. People are starting to talk. We can't have someone like that making the rest of us uncomfortable. There's a pause on the other end of the line, but Karen doesn't wait for the operator to speak before continuing. Yes, that's right. I think it's best that someone come over here and handle this before it gets worse. The situation is escalating. The operator finally responds, asking a few routine questions, but Karen's mind is already racing, adding more details to her already exaggerated story. I'm just worried it's going to get out of hand. People have kids in this neighborhood. She's clearly not well, and it's affecting everyone. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think it's best if someone comes by to check it out. The absurdity of Karen's accusations becomes more evident with each word. Your daughter, standing in her own front yard, is simply trying to exist, trying to live her life despite the harsh circumstances she's facing. But in Karen's eyes, her illness, her shaved head, and her very presence are now a disturbance, something to be eradicated or silenced. The more Karen talks, the more her actions feel like a personal vendetta, an overreaction to something that never should have been an issue. As Karen hangs up the phone, she looks satisfied, almost smug. She's made her call, set her plan in motion, and in her mind, she's done what's best for the neighborhood. The camera pulls back, showing your daughter still standing alone on the porch, unaware of what's about to unfold. The audience is left in disbelief, angry at the injustice of it all, how a simple act of living, of coping with illness, has turned into something criminal in the eyes of someone so blinded by their own judgment. The sound of distant sirens slowly grows louder, cutting through the quiet of the neighborhood. Your daughter stands alone on the front porch, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her eyes fixed on the approaching police cars. The weight of the moment presses down on her, and she can feel her heart pounding in her chest. She never imagined that something as simple as walking through her own neighborhood would result in this, an unexpected confrontation with the police, all because of her shaved head. As the police vehicles come to a halt in front of the house, two officers step out, their boots hitting the pavement with firm, deliberate steps. They look around, momentarily confused by the scene. The tension in the air is palpable, and the officers exchange brief glances, unsure of what they're walking into. They've been called to resolve a disturbance, but All they see is a quiet street, a young woman standing on her porch, and an older woman, Karen, eagerly waiting for them to take action. Karen steps forward with an exaggerated sense of urgency, her hands waving in the air as she starts to explain the situation. "Thank you for coming," she says, her voice sharp and filled with authority. "This young woman here," she gestures toward your daughter, "has been walking around like this," she points to your daughter's shaved head, "disturbing the peace. It's a problem. People are talking, and it's causing a scene in the neighborhood. We can't have this kind of behavior affecting the rest of us." The officers glance at each other, clearly unsure of what to make of Karen's words. One officer, a man in his early 30s, raises an eyebrow, trying to process what he's hearing. "So, let me get this straight," he says, his tone cautious. "You're saying her shaved head is causing a disturbance?" Karen nods, a self-satisfied smile creeping onto her face. "Yes, it's not normal. It's making everyone uncomfortable. People have children, you know? And this," she gestures dramatically at your daughter, "is just not something we should be allowing in our neighborhood. It's affecting the whole community's image." The officer sighs, clearly baffled by the complaint. He turns toward your daughter, who's standing quietly, her shoulders slightly hunched as she takes in the absurdity of the situation. The other officer, a woman, looks down at the ground for a moment before addressing your daughter, her tone gentle but uncertain. "Ma'am, can you tell us what's going on here?" Your daughter takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. I I have cancer," she says quietly, her voice trembling just slightly. "I'm going through chemotherapy, and this is a side effect of the treatment." She lifts her chin, meeting the officer's gaze. "I'm just trying to get through each day. I didn't ask for this." There's a brief silence as the officer takes in your daughter's words, her expression softening. The confusion on the officer's faces deepens, but there's also a sense of discomfort, as if they're unsure how to proceed. Karen, standing to the side, looks impatient, ready to dismiss this explanation entirely. She's making it sound like it's some kind of excuse. Karen interjects sharply, her voice cutting through the moment. "But it's still causing a disturbance. It's not normal behavior for a neighborhood." The officers exchange another look. One of them, the male officer, looks back at Karen with a hint of frustration in his eyes. "Ma'am," he begins, his voice measured but firm, "we're going to need to look into this further. We can't just act on a complaint like this without understanding the full context." Your daughter stands there, heart racing, as Karen's words continue to echo in her mind. It's clear now that the officers are just as confused as she is. What started as a harmless walk through her own neighborhood has turned into an escalating mess, all thanks to Karen's judgment. The absurdity of it all feels surreal, but the tension in the air is undeniable. The situation has spiraled out of control, and your daughter, for the first time, feels a deep sense of injustice settle in her chest. As the two officers stand there, awkwardly trying to make sense of the absurdity of Karen's complaint, the atmosphere grows heavier with every passing second. Your daughter, standing quietly on the front porch, is still trembling from the shock of the situation. The officers exchange uncertain glances, clearly caught in the middle of a situation they never expected. A simple neighborhood walk has somehow escalated into an uncomfortable confrontation with the police. Karen, not willing to let go of her position, steps forward again, pushing the officers to take action. "I'm just saying, something needs to be done about this. We can't have people walking around causing this kind of disturbance. It's not normal. I'm only trying to protect the community." Her voice is sharp, almost demanding, as she attempts to convince the officers that her concerns are legitimate. She gestures toward your daughter, who stands frozen, her head bowed, feeling smaller by the second under Karen's relentless pressure. Your daughter takes a breath, trying to steady herself. This is not how she ever imagined dealing with her illness, being scrutinized, judged, and now potentially punished by the very authorities meant to protect her. She opens her mouth to speak, but Karen immediately cuts her off, her voice laced with authority. "There's no excuse for this, and we need to do something about it. Just then, from inside the house, you step out onto the porch. The weight of the situation hits you immediately as you take in the scene before you. Karen still berating the officers with her complaints. Your daughter, standing there, her shoulders slumped, the pain of the moment etched on her face, and the two officers caught in a bizarre tug-of-war between the two sides. The tension is unbearable, and something inside you snaps. You walk forward, calmly, with a sense of quiet authority. The officers look at you in surprise, unsure of who you are. You stop just a few feet away from your daughter, your presence commanding the attention of everyone in the yard. There's a brief moment of silence before you speak, your voice steady and calm, but with an undeniable edge. "I'm the one you need to talk to," you say, your gaze directly on Karen, whose face immediately falls when she realizes who you are. Karen's posture stiffens, her self-righteousness momentarily shattered. Her eyes widen in shock, and for the first time, she seems to lose her grip on the situation. "What do you mean?" she asks, her voice faltering. "Who are you?" You stand tall, your voice steady but firm as you reveal, "I'm a police officer." You pause, allowing the words to sink in. "And you've made a serious mistake." The shock on Karen's face is immediate. Her mouth opens, then closes as she tries to process the information. The officers, too, exchange a look of confusion, though there's a noticeable shift in their demeanor as they start to understand that this is no ordinary neighborhood dispute. You take a step closer to the officers, your voice never wavering as you continue. "This young woman here is my daughter. She's undergoing chemotherapy, and the shaved head you're so concerned about is part of her medical treatment. She didn't ask for this, and she's doing everything she can to get through each day. And yet, you've made her feel like an outcast in her own neighborhood." You turn to Karen, your eyes narrowing slightly. You don't know her story. You didn't take a moment to understand what she's going through. Instead, you chose to judge her based on her appearance. And now, you've involved the police over something that was never a crime to begin with. Karen stands there, her face pale, her earlier confidence completely gone. The realization of her mistake hits her hard, and the smug self-righteousness she had displayed earlier is now replaced with visible discomfort. She opens her mouth as if to speak, but no words come out. The two officers look between you and Karen, still processing the information, and the younger officer finally speaks. "Ma'am, I think we need to reevaluate the situation. Clearly, there's been a misunderstanding." You nod, not taking your eyes off Karen. "This isn't a disturbance. This is a family dealing with a difficult situation, and your involvement has only made it worse." The tension begins to dissipate as the officers take a step back, clearly realizing that they have been misled. One officer addresses Karen directly, his tone now less accommodating than before. "Ma'am, it's important to understand that what you've described here doesn't constitute a crime. We're going to need to move on from this." Karen's face flushes with embarrassment. She opens her mouth to say something, but the words are caught in her throat. She's lost, and for the first time, she's the one facing the consequences of her actions. She looks at the officers, then at your daughter, and finally turns to walk away, her head low, unable to meet anyone's gaze. As Karen retreats, you walk toward your daughter, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. The officers give you a brief nod of acknowledgement, and as they turn to leave, they exchange another glance, realizing that they've just witnessed the power of judgment, the damage it can cause, and how easily a small misunderstanding can escalate. The camera focuses on you and your daughter standing side by side as the weight of the moment begins to lift. The tension has broken, but the emotional scars of the confrontation will take time to heal. Yet, in that moment, your daughter finally feels a sense of validation, knowing that the truth has come to light. The sun now hangs lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the front porch. The tension in the air, once thick with judgment and conflict, now feels strangely lighter, as if the weight of the moment has been lifted. Karen stands at a distance, her back stiff, her hands clenched into fists by her sides. Her usual confident demeanor is nowhere to be found. Instead, she appears smaller now, almost uncomfortable, as if the force of the situation has humbled her. You and your daughter stand together, facing her, a quiet strength emanating from both of you. The officers have left, leaving the three of you standing in the aftermath of this unplanned drama. The neighborhood feels strangely still, the hum of life around it temporarily muted by the weight of what's just transpired. Karen looks between you and your daughter, her mouth opening and closing as if she's trying to find the right words, but each attempt feels hollow, forced. After what feels like an eternity of silence, Karen clears her throat, trying to steady herself. I'm sorry, she begins, her voice tight, almost as if the words are physically painful for her to say. I didn't know about your situation. Her eyes flit briefly to your daughter, then quickly dart away, as if she can't bear to look at her. I just thought, I just thought you were causing trouble, and I got carried away. I didn't mean to make things worse. The apology is weak, lacking any real remorse. Her words are clipped, her voice still carrying a note of defensiveness, as though she's only apologizing because she has to, not because she genuinely understands the harm she caused. There's no acknowledgement of how deeply her judgment hurt, no real recognition of the personal pain she inflicted by treating your daughter as an outsider, as a problem to be dealt with. Instead, she speaks as though this is just another inconvenience she must address to clear her own conscience. Your daughter stands there, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, fighting to keep the sting of the moment at bay. She takes a slow breath, her gaze unwavering as she faces Karen. The weight of what's happened, the humiliation, the isolation, still sits heavily in her chest. But rather than lashing out, she does something unexpected. She nods. Her voice is quiet, but steady when she speaks. Thank you for apologizing, she says softly, though the hurt is still evident in her eyes. But it's okay. I know you didn't understand. I just wish you had taken a moment to listen before jumping to conclusions. There's a pause, a brief moment where Karen looks like she wants to respond, but the words catch in her throat. The humiliation she feels is clear now, and she's left with nothing to say. Your daughter's response, calm and graceful, only highlights the difference between them. The strength that comes from understanding and compassion versus the bitterness that stems from ignorance and fear. Karen, realizing she said all she can, lets out a small, defeated sigh. I'll go now, she mutters, barely meeting your daughter's gaze. She turns quickly and walks away, her shoulders slumped, the confidence she once had shattered by the truth. As she retreats, your daughter remains standing, her back straight, though her eyes glisten with unshed tears. She may not have received the apology she deserved, but the dignity with which she handled the situation is a quiet victory in itself. You stand beside her, a sense of pride swelling in your chest. The justice in this moment is bittersweet, but the satisfaction of knowing that Karen has been humbled and exposed for her actions is undeniable. The scene ends with the quiet strength of your daughter, a powerful reminder that no matter how others choose to judge, true resilience comes from within. In the days following the confrontation, the neighborhood slowly begins to return to its usual rhythm. But something is different now. There's a quiet shift in the air, a sense of solidarity and understanding that wasn't there before. The streets that once felt indifferent now feel warmer, as if the community is more connected than ever. Your daughter, though still processing the events, has started to move through the neighborhood with a newfound sense of strength. She walks with her head held a little higher, her steps more purposeful. It's not just the physical act of walking, it's a shift in how she carries herself, a silent message to the world that she won't be defined by the cruel actions of one person. As she walks, a neighbor who had witnessed the entire exchange from her front window, Mrs. Thomas, steps out onto her porch. She's an elderly woman with a kind smile, and she's lived in the neighborhood for years. She waves your daughter over with a warm gesture. Hey, sweetie, Mrs. Thomas calls out, her voice gentle but firm. I just wanted to tell you how proud I am of you. What Karen did wasn't right, and you handled it with so much grace. You're stronger than most people could ever be in a situation like that. Your daughter smiles, a small, shy smile, but it's one that shows the appreciation she feels. Thank you, She says quietly, her voice filled with gratitude. I didn't expect all that to happen. It's just hard sometimes. Mrs. Thomas nods, her eyes soft with understanding. I can only imagine, sweetheart. But I want you to know, if anyone says anything to you again, you let me know. We've all got your back. Karen's behavior was unacceptable, and I think people are starting to realize it. As your daughter walks away, a sense of pride fills her chest. The quiet conversation with Mrs. Thomas has shifted something in her. She's no longer walking through the neighborhood as an outsider, but as someone who belongs, someone supported by the people around her. Later that afternoon, as your daughter heads to the local coffee shop, a couple of other neighbors approach her, families who had been watching from their windows when Karen had made her complaints. The parents, a couple with two young children, offer their support, telling your daughter how much they admired her strength in the face of such unjust treatment. We've all been talking about what happened, says one of the parents, Mr. Green, a man in his early 40s with a strong, reassuring presence. Karen really stepped out of line. She made you feel like you weren't welcome here, and that's not right. But you handled yourself with so much dignity. My kids were watching, and they saw how calm you stayed. You're a role model for them, and for me too. Your daughter feels the warmth of their words wrap around her like a comforting blanket. It's one thing to hear kind words from friends and family, but to hear them from neighbors, from people who had only seen the incident unfold from afar, feels like a validation of everything she's been through. I just want to be left in peace. Your daughter replies, her voice steady. I don't want any more trouble, just to live my life. The parents nod in agreement. You should never have had to go through that in the first place, Mr. Green says firmly. But we're here for you. The whole neighborhood knows Karen went too far. If she ever bothers you again, you've got our support. Don't hesitate to ask. As your daughter walks back home, the conversations with her neighbors linger in her mind, a warm reminder that she's not alone in this. The neighborhood, once divided by small petty differences, now feels united in their support for her. And as Karen's influence begins to wane, your daughter is left with something far more powerful, a community that sees her not for her illness or her appearance, but for the strength and dignity she carries through every challenge she faces. The sense of justice is clear, and for the first time in a long while, she feels truly at peace in her own neighborhood. It's a warm Saturday afternoon, and the neighborhood is gathering for the annual community barbecue in the local park. The familiar scent of grilled food fills the air, mingling with the sounds of children laughing and playing. Neighbors exchange greetings, and the atmosphere is lively, a far cry from the tension that had unfolded just days ago. Your daughter, smiling, mingles effortlessly with the crowd, chatting with the same neighbors who had supported her after Karen's outburst. She laughs with Mrs. Thomas, who's telling a funny story about her cat, and joins the Green family at a picnic table, enjoying the easy conversation. It's clear that the events of the past week have brought the community closer together, and your daughter is no longer the outsider. She's now an integral part of the group, her strength and grace having earned the respect of everyone around her. Meanwhile, Karen stands near the edge of the gathering, a drink in hand, scanning the crowd. She makes a hesitant approach toward a group of neighbors, her smile forced and awkward. She attempts to make small talk, but her greeting is met with silence, or at best, a brief nod before the conversation shifts elsewhere. No one makes eye contact with her, and the friendly chatter she's used to is replaced by a cold, palpable distance. Karen's face flushes with frustration, but she doesn't retreat. Instead, she tries again, this time approaching the family hosting the event. Hi, I was just thinking about the cake you made last year, she begins, her voice lacking its usual self-assurance. It was really, before she can finish, the host, a middle-aged man with a warm smile, cuts her off politely but firmly. Oh, Karen, I think we're all set with the food, thanks. He turns his attention back to the conversation, leaving her standing there, awkward and alone. Karen glances around, clearly uncomfortable, but the lack of response from the other neighbors is unmistakable. They've seen her actions, and they've made their judgment. As she stands there, isolated, your daughter continues to enjoy herself, surrounded by the people who have accepted her, who now value her for who she is, not for her appearance, but for her character. Karen's attempts to break back into the group grow more desperate, but each failed attempt only serves to highlight her own social isolation. The contrast is striking. Where Karen once had the power to command attention with her sharp words and controlling nature, now she's nothing more than a lonely figure, left to watch from the sidelines as your daughter effortlessly embraces the community's warmth. It's a quiet but powerful justice, and for the first time, Karen's actions have consequences she can no longer escape. Later that evening, the soft glow of the lamp casts warm light over the living room, and the house is quiet. The once tense atmosphere has faded, replaced by a calm that feels almost surreal after the intensity of the past few days. You and your daughter sit on the couch, the room still, with the kind of peace that comes only after a storm has passed. The hum of the evening outside is a distant memory, but inside, you both are alone with your thoughts. The conversation that begins is slow, a gentle reflection on everything that has happened. Your daughter, her legs tucked up beneath her, looks out the window for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. I didn't think it would get that bad. She admits quietly, her voice almost a whisper. I thought maybe she'd understand or at least back off. But it just felt like it was all too much. You watch her closely, noting the faint tremble in her hands as she wraps them around a mug of tea. It's clear that the weight of Karen's words still lingers, but there's something different about her now. Something stronger. You know that the hurt from the confrontation won't disappear overnight, but you also know she's taken something far more valuable from this experience. You say softly, your voice steady but filled with pride. It took a lot of courage to stand there and handle everything the way you did. You didn't let her control the narrative. You showed her and everyone else who you really are. Your daughter turns to you then, her expression softening, a small, genuine smile tugging at her lips. I was scared, but I guess I just had to do it for myself. I couldn't let her think she could just walk over me like that, and I couldn't let her make me feel like I don't belong here. You nod, the pride in your heart swelling. You do belong here. You belong wherever you choose to be. There's a pause, a moment of quiet understanding between you both. The hurt, the embarrassment, the pain, it's all still there, but so is the strength. You realize in that moment that this experience has changed both of you. It's deepened the bond between you, fortified by resilience and the shared understanding that no one, not even someone like Karen, has the power to diminish your daughter's worth. I'm proud of you, you say quietly, your voice thick with emotion. You've taught me something, too, about strength, about standing tall, even when the world feels like it's pushing you down. Her eyes meet yours. And in that silent exchange, you both know that no matter what comes next, this moment will stay with you forever, one that marks not just the end of the confrontation, but the beginning of a deeper connection and an even stronger resolve to face the world together. The scene opens with a calm shot of the living room, the warm light from the lamp casting a gentle glow. You're sitting in a chair, facing the camera, your expression serious but filled with hope. The events that have unfolded are behind you, but the lessons they've imparted are still fresh, still important. You take a deep breath, ready to share your thoughts. I want to take a moment to speak directly to you, the people watching this. You begin, your voice steady, yet filled with emotion. What my daughter and I have gone through is something no one should have to face, being judged, misunderstood, and made to feel less than because of something we can't control. But that's exactly why I'm here today, to tell you that none of us should ever let anyone take away our sense of self-worth. You pause for a moment, ensuring that every word lands, that every viewer feels the weight of the message. The truth is, bullying, judgment, and prejudice can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, how you look, or what you're going through. There will always be people who try to make you feel small, who try to put you down to lift themselves up. But the real strength is in how you respond, whether you let them win or whether you stand tall, no matter how hard it gets. Your gaze softens, and a faint, compassionate smile appears on your face. We've all been through something difficult in life. My daughter's battle with cancer isn't something I would wish on anyone, but through it, I've learned more than I could have ever imagined about resilience. She's taught me that no matter what the world throws at you, you don't have to let it define who you are. You can rise above it. You lean forward slightly, emphasizing the sincerity of your words. I'm asking you all to remember this. When you see someone struggling, when you see someone being judged or ridiculed for no reason, step in. Offer your kindness. Stand with them. It's so easy to turn a blind eye, to stay silent when you're not the one being hurt. But real courage is standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Your eyes lock with the camera, a quiet but powerful energy in your words. So, please be kind, be understanding. Let's make the world a place where people don't have to hide who they are, where they don't have to face ridicule or isolation. We all deserve respect, compassion, and love. Let's stand together and fight against ignorance, one act of kindness at a time. Thank you for watching. You begin, your voice gentle yet firm, carrying the weight of everything that's been shared. If you've made it this far, I want you to know that your time and attention mean the world to me. But more than that, I want to remind you that what we've seen here isn't just a story about one person or one situation. It's about all of us. It's about the way we treat each other, the way we show up for one another when things get tough. You lean forward slightly, as if sharing something personal. You see, kindness doesn't cost anything, but it can make all the difference in the world. When you stand up for someone who's being judged or mistreated, when you step in and offer your support instead of turning away, you're not just changing their life, you're changing the world. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, adds up. And that's how we start building a world where everyone feels seen, valued, and heard. A brief pause, allowing the weight of your words to settle. I want to challenge you. You continue, now more direct, your voice gaining momentum. If you've ever felt like you didn't have a voice, or if you've ever felt judged, misunderstood, or invisible, know that you're not alone. And if you've ever been in a position to stand up for someone else, I encourage you to do so. Use your voice. Share your story. Share this video. Let others know that they're not alone in their struggles. You give a small, encouraging smile, inviting the viewer into the conversation. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your stories. So, please leave a comment below and share what's been on your mind. Maybe you've been through something similar, or maybe you've seen someone else face judgment for no reason. Your voice matters, and it could help someone else feel heard, too. The camera zooms in slightly, giving a more intimate feel as you continue. And if you believe in spreading kindness and understanding, I'd ask you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we can create a ripple effect of compassion and empathy that reaches further than we could ever imagine. Your actions can inspire others to stand up, to be kind, and to help create the change we want to see in the world. You take a deep breath, your expression serious but hopeful. It's not about waiting for someone else to act. It's about all of us coming together, making small, consistent efforts, and knowing that we can make a real difference. So let's start right now. Share your story. Speak up for what's right. And let's change the world one kind act at a time.